Last year you told yourself that this year will be the year you are going to start saving money. But this year rolled up and you still have under $1,000 saved up. But you're not alone. 56% of Americans don't have even $1,000 saved up for an emergency. That is because they don't know about what I'm about to teach you in this video, and that is the spread rule. The spread rule can easily get you to save $10,000 depending on how quick you start with it. Before I explain that rule, I do have to explain some very important factors. How much money do you already make? Obviously, the more money you make, the easier it is for you to save $10,000. If you make $20,000 a month, then all you have to do is save half your income, and voila, you have $10,000 saved. But that's not the majority of people. The average American makes about $6,250 every single month. That is before tax, which is the equivalent of about $75,000 per year. Now, let's assume you make about $5,000 every single month. How do you get to $10,000 saved very quickly? How much do you spend? The less you spend, the easier it is for you to get to $10,000. Duh. Even though I'm all for one spending his money and enjoying the fruits of his labor, in this case, we do have to save money just in case something were to happen in the future, and that is why this is called the emergency fund. Not having enough money for an emergency that might come up is like financial suicide, but luckily after I teach you about the spread rule, this would be a piece of cake to you guys. Your location. $10,000 in the US is completely different than $10,000 in Lebanon or in Mexico or even in Qatar. In Lebanon, saving $10,000 is definitely more challenging than doing so in the US because wages are just lower. So in that case, you should estimate what that $10,000 is worth to your certain location. So for example, let's say $10,000 in the US is the equivalent of $2,000 in Lebanon. Now, if you're in Mexico, estimate how much the $10,000 would be worth. If you're in Qatar, do the same. Now, what is the spread rule and how do you implement it? Start by creating a bank account with a bank that allows you to have multiple sub-accounts under the same account. I like to use Capital One 360 because it allows me to have more than one account. One of them could be for investments, one of them could be for saving. But this account is not the main one you use. I personally like to use another main one, which is Charles Schwab. You can pick Chase, you can pick Bank of America, whatever you want. The reason I use Charles Schwab is because it has no foreign transaction fees and I can pull out from any ATM and get reimbursed the fee at the end of the month. None of these banks I'm affiliated with, but I'm just sharing my personal experience and what I use. Guys, real quick, if you're enjoying this video so far, please make sure you like it and share it with a friend who might find it valuable. Now back to the video. This account is what you will be using for your spending, and this is where your income is going to be deposited. Whichever payment processor your employer uses, most of the time they would give you the option to divide your income into multiple bank accounts. Back when I was employed, we had ADP where I can set 50% of my income to go to this account, 30% to go to this account, 20% to go to this account. You get the point. But if you don't have access to that, no need to worry. I will teach you how to do that manually. The way I like to divide this, if I want to save $10,000 as aggressively as possible, is by having two accounts. The first account will be the spending account, the second account would be the savings account, and they are each in a different bank account, completely different bank account, and I'll explain why. Let's say I have the ADP app pulled up. What I do is I set up 50% to go to this account. Let's say this account is a Charles Schwab account or a Chase account, which is my spending account. I would set 50% of my money to go there, and then I would set up something else like Capital One 360, and automatically every month or every 2 weeks, 50% of my income goes to that savings account. And the reason why this is important is because when you have them in two separate accounts, it's basically money you're not going to see and you're not going to spend. Out of sight, out of mind. So that way it's completely effortless on your end. All you have to do is set it up once and you would be on autopilot for the rest of the year. Now, if you don't have that option and you get paid via physical check, for example, all you have to do is go to your bank app or the website, set up automatic transfers every 2 weeks or every month, depending on how frequently you get paid. 50% of your income or the equivalent of 50% of your income would be transferred into the separate account. Any amount left over in your spending account, you can then transfer them to your savings account, because remember, the goal here is to save a minimum of 50%. Side note, if you guys can't do 50% because your necessary expenses exceed 50% of your income, then just adjust accordingly. Don't take this literally. If you can only save 25%, then just do 25%. If you can save 75%, and that's amazing, do save 75%. The more you save, the quicker you're going to get to $10,000. The goal here is to save up to $10,000, or what is the equivalent of 6 months worth of expenses to you. For some people, it's 20,000. For some people, it's 5,000. For some people, it's 1,000. Now, after you save that 6 months worth of expenses, which would be your emergency fund, then you can start investing the money aggressively. Instead of saving 50%, maybe now's the time to stop saving. And when you spend 50%, now's the time to maybe even invest 50% of that money into your own education or into stocks, crypto, whatever it is. None of this is financial advice, but you get the point. Invest this in places where you can actually start making more money. The reason why I suggest having one account, which is the main, and the other account, which has 2 sub-accounts underneath, is because eventually the goal isn't to keep on saving money forever. Eventually, we want to use the third account, which is the investment part of our system. Then we're gonna start setting up our accounts so we can have, let's say, 50% going into spending, 30% into investments, 20% into savings, or you can go as aggressively you want on the investments part.